Flintstones. It's the Flintstones that I'm gonna be talking a little bit about today. Now, wait, hold on. It says flagstones on here. That can't be right. Wait till the Gladstones hear about this. You could be forgiven for not knowing much about the Flintstones nowadays. They're not really a thing anymore, sadly. Not in their original form. It's a shame that Seth MacFarlane never got that reboot he was planning off the ground. Would have been interesting to see at least. Back in their day, the Flintstones was the thing to watch though. Not in caveman days, I'm talking about the 60s obviously. It was like The Simpsons. In fact, it kind of is The Simpsons, just old. No, actually it's more like The Honeymooners. It's a direct parody of that. The OG Simpsons, if you will. This was an animated sitcom by Hanna-Barbera set in a society just like ours, except everyone's caveman, living in caveman times, in a town called Bedrock. Stop it! We're not there yet. That's certainly an idea someone had. It's one of them. Basically just an excuse to make lots of puns and prehistoric jokes. But the family at the heart of it all was, you heard me, snarky YouTube commenters, iconic. Fred and Wilma Flintstone with their best friend neighbor couple Barney and Betty Rubble. All lovable characters with Fred and Barney voiced by Alan Reed and Mel Blanc, two of the best voice actors ever. It was silly, it was funny, it was just very, very cozy, I think is the best way to put it.
America's best-selling, best-tasting filter cigarette.
Winston tastes good.
Not so much this bit looking back, but yeah. Anyway, in 1994, Hollywood decided to finally take the plunge and make a Flintstones live-action movie because reruns and TV specials were doing well. Either that or the show Dinosaurs put us in the mood for this kind of thing. I don't know.
He's about to hit a chestnut tree.
I didn't know and I didn't care. I just had to see this movie. Okay, it's not like it was my favorite cartoon as a kid, but I like the Flintstones. I would watch it from time to time. Honestly, I watched a lot of Hanna-Barbera stuff. Tom and Jerry, the Jetsons, you name it. Having said all that, I really had no idea how the hell they were gonna pull off a Flintstones live-action movie. Turns out, freaking nailed it. I mean, look at this. Hold on. I'm getting too excited. Let's just slow down a little bit. The great thing with this movie is it's funny right away. 1 second in and I'm already cracking up. I really want a Steven Spielberg cap to this day. Then, a little bit like the Popeye movie, the film opens on a grim sort of mood. Who died, guys? What's with the gloomy music? I thought this was the Flintstones. Wilma! In fact, what actually happened is the plot already kicked in. No time wasted. We meet our villains Cliff Vandercave, played by MacLachlan, and Sharon Stone, played by not Sharon Stone. Actually played by Halle Berry in full femme fatale mode. Then the classic Flintstones intro kicks in and it's perfect. It's perfect. It's hilarious. It's live action. It's the Flintstones. I'm in. John Goodman? I'm fully in. Rick Moranis? I'm further in. And I just realized it sounds like I'm making love to all these people. In a way, I am. To sum up, it looked like this movie was gonna kick ass, and it did. Thank you. I'm just kidding. Imagine if I ended it like that. Just look at these sets. They're huge. They built all of Bedrock. Damn, dude, don't you just want to be there? Actually, I should explain. So back in the 90s and before that, we had like stuff called sets and like makeup effects and puppets. Every movie had puppets, okay? Anthony Hopkins in Nixon, that's not Anthony Hopkins. That's how good the puppets were. That was a puppet. Confirmed. Look it up. I know we still do that. Anyway, the film sees Fred Flintstone earn himself a promotion at work after acing an aptitude test, but Barney had switched the test at the last second to help out Fred. This all backfires, as not only does Barney get fired because of this by Fred, but Fred finds himself being misled by the bad guy, and Fred and Barney's friendship collapses completely. What movie? You just threw that in there, didn't you? Only the collapse of one of the most cherished, sacred friendships in all of media. Make me cry, why don't you? You instantly care about these characters because they clearly love each other. The way they joke around, look out for each other, it's adorable. But the movie's like, no, it's over. Barney just punched Fred in the face, it's over. It's all over. Wow. Okay. I'm making it sound more dramatic than it is in the movie, granted, but this is the heart of the film and the show. While it's done in a light-hearted way and they can always cut to a cartoon dino to uplift some scenes, this crumbling friendship is a sad idea and it carries everything in this film. Because even though this is a more accessible movie, a more kid-friendly movie than, say, Popeye, which is a bit more challenging, it's not without its drama. At the beginning of the movie, Fred does a nice thing for Barney. He helps him financially to adopt a son. Barney then tries to do a nice thing for Fred, but it backfires and destroys everything. These guys don't deserve this. Why are they being tested like this? Usually characters get punished for being douchebags, but here, both are completely humiliated in front of their families and co-workers. Why? Now, spoilers, we're about to overthink this hardcore. The real reason, of course, is because stories need conflict. Flintstones is a parody of the 50s with all these new fancy home appliances and work ethic and 2.1 families, all the while making fun of how young and strange we are as a species currently. But this isn't just the Flintstones, it's the Flintstones, the movie, in 1994. So on top of that, you get a shot of adrenaline with a criticism of the system as a whole, as Fred and Barney's friendship is crushed by greed, corruption, money basically. It's kind of the 90s making fun of the 80s in a way as well. This system in Bedrock is advanced in some ways but very backwards in other ways. Obviously there's pig garbage disposals, which is messed up, but I'm talking more about the way in which society demands a lot from the people of Bedrock, yet rewards good deeds with complications, temptations. Fred Flintstone isn't initially that into his promotion that much. He's kind of lonely and miserable pretty quickly, and he just wants to go back and hang out with the guys. But Vendicave throws so much money at him that he eventually starts to believe the hype and becomes an actual jerk.
Get me a clean spoon.
They make a point throughout the movie of showing that Fred is never too proud to ask Barney for a small loan sometimes. And I'm sure that's partly why he wanted to pay Barney back in such a big way. Barney tried to do something nice for Fred, thinking he owes him something, but does he? Did he need to do that? It's not like Fred was expecting anything. He was perfectly happy with that beautiful speech Barney made, even if he did make that promise. Just knowing he had made his friend happy was enough. Barney then is punished for thinking that friendship is a transactional thing, like they're not equal unless he pays him back somehow. But raising a kid is tough and expensive, and it ends up costing him his job and his home. He was not thinking of his family at that moment, so the moral is kinda weird, right? Families go head to head against friendships in this movie. Neither Barney or Fred are particularly well off at the start, so Fred's financial sacrifice comes straight from the heart. He shouldn't have done that, really, because it's his savings with Wilma, but she doesn't care, she's proud of him. It was never about the money for her. But Fred also gets punished eventually for putting friendship ahead of family. Of course, the film is not that dark or political, right? It takes all of this lightly, but the truth of it is Barney and Fred are struggling a little bit. They don't have much, but they could lose everything they have at any moment, so they're gonna have to find this fragile yet steady life balance that they had before. And they're gonna have to do that by saving the friendship somehow, being honest, and looking out for each other. Even if one family is slightly ahead of the other, they completely rely on each other. In a sitcom, by the end of each episode, everything's kinda back to how it was before, right? And they do that here, but what they go through is way more intense than in a sitcom. It's about survival. This is why a movie like The Flintstones is so much better than, say, Inspector Gadget. For one thing, this movie is actually funny, so that's a big one right there. But its universe is coherent, detailed, and painted so well. Plus, it's actually about something. There's interesting themes here. Director Brian Levant really understood the assignment. Inspector Gadget was like someone scribbled a bunch of doodles on a page and sold it to Disney somehow. The really cynical take on this Fred and Barney friendship and the real tragedy of it is that Barney is envious of Fred's life deep down. He's trying to have a kid. The Flintstones have pebbles, remember? Fred is a bit of a selfish douchebag and likes being slightly ahead of his friend in life. But they accept each other's flaws and differences and try to be the best friends they can be to each other, whatever happens. There's something touching about that. It's sad, but it's sweet as well. Talk about humanizing these cartoon characters. They did one hell of a job. Essentially, this film is about Barney Rubble finally managing to be on the same level in society as his friend, both of them making big sacrifices to help each other out and be there for each other. Barney gives up a potential promotion which he really needed, and so does Fred at the end, when he decides that being who he is and being the friend he is comes first. After screwing up big time, of course, because it's Fred Flintstone after all, I mean. Even though he really didn't deserve to be humiliated in this way, both friends had to learn these lessons the hard way. After all, the promotion that he gets at the end would have been a sham as well. It would not have been truly earned, because even though Fred Flintstone technically invented concrete, it was completely accidental. This movie applauds friends helping each other out, but at the same time it warns that to survive in society you can't rely entirely on handouts, or even your friends. You're gonna have to fight to survive, there's gonna be some curveballs thrown at you, and it's not gonna be easy. But if you're a good person at heart, you're a good friend, and you work hard, you might be okay. Maybe you won't reach the top of the bedrock elite, but maybe that's okay, because to do that, very often you kinda have to be a Cliff Vandercave a little bit. The message of this film is a little harsh around the edges, but pretty positive. Basically just that if people are going to be surviving and evolving, they're gonna have to be good and honest with each other. Everything else should just fall into place. I honestly really like this movie. It's cute, it's cozy, it cheers me up, you know? Okay, so the story is very simple. You never really feel like any of these characters are in any real danger or anything, and you know it'll end up on a happy note. Of course, there's threats of multiple hangings and a dude dies by being turned into a statue, but it's the Flintstones. How deep, dark, and serious are we expecting this to get? Again, it's like with the new Mario movie. Can you really complain that the story was too light? The games are literally about nothing, dude. It's Mario. They did an awesome job with it. If you want a more complex, dark, and twisted version of Mario, there's a little thing called Super Mario Bros., the movie from 1993. Hello, it's right there. It's beautiful. The Flintstones film definitely manages to capture the vibe of the original sitcom. The excellent cast perfectly embodying these beloved characters, playing the roles earnestly instead of dripped in irony. It looks fantastic, it's funny, and it elevates the themes a little bit for the big screen. People sometimes will call this a bad movie, or make fun of someone because they like it, or make fun of the movie itself. But the truth is, my friends, that sometimes people say they don't like something or they make fun of something because they're embarrassed to admit that they actually love it. If a friend of theirs loved this movie, they'd probably rethink it, you know. It's a sheep thing. We learn this from sheep. First of all, this movie was a hit. People forget, but this movie made bank. Why do you think it got a sequel? People loved this movie. Kids especially, I suspect. It's just that when those kids grew up, they decided to pretend like they totally didn't just nail the freaking Flintstones with this movie, and they didn't lap it up back in the day. Just like the friendship at the heart of this movie crumbled, so did our interest in the Flintstones, unfortunately. Or at least our honesty about how much we cared about the Flintstones, you know? It's a sad thought. What a bummer day. Oh well, at least I've got a good old Winston cigarette to cheer me right up. This is what the Flintstones movie looks like on Rotten Tomatoes. The critics' consensus: the Flintstones wastes beloved source material and imaginative production design on a tepid script that plunks Bedrock's favorite family into a cynical story awash with lame puns. Lame puns? Excuse me? Have you ever watched the Flintstones? Tepid script next to what? The Godfather 2? It's the Flintstones! It's fine! It literally just needs to be the Flintstones, be funny, and make some sort of sitcom sense. That's it. I mean, mission accomplished, right? Like I said, yeah, the story is very simple, but why is that bad? It's the Flintstones, it's not freaking Tenet. Thank God, by the way. I actually think the writer did a great job at both paying homage to the classic show and introducing it to a new audience. It keeps the silly sense of humor and hanna-barbera vibe we remember from childhood and makes it look as legit as possible. The characters are exactly like in the show, both in terms of personality and the costumes. The only thing that's different is it's shot really well, like a real movie. Not just backgrounds moving and repeating as characters just walk around talking, with like canned laughter over it. I really don't know what more they could have done for a first movie. It's great. Obviously the real waste was that lame-brained sequel, but that's for another time. We'll get to it. Maybe. Ugh, do I gotta watch that again? They just took too many Flintstones vitamins when they made that movie. Let's just say that. By the way, I used to have a cassette tape of this movie. I would fall asleep listening to it, telling me the story of the film, and I never got bored of it. so the movie must have done something right. Maybe The Flintstones is not the most cerebral movie, but it makes up for that by being a lot of fun. Tongue-in-cheek for sure, but not in an annoyingly douchey way, more in a way that celebrates exactly what it's based on. The casting is so good, you guys. I can't stress this enough. John Goodman is awesome, Rick Moranis too, of course, Elizabeth Perkins and Rosie O'Donnell, perfect also as Wilma and Betty, Harvey Korman as the Dictabird, amazing.
I don't think they heard you in the back.
And rewatching the movie, I realized that Elizabeth Taylor is actually hilarious in this. I remember thinking like it was weird that she was in this film, but she kind of totally pulled it off. Plus you've got music by the B-52s who are also in the movie. And they're awesome. Okay, so the Jay Leno cameo's a little cringe. That's okay, not all the jokes hit the mark here, admittedly. But the humor is on point. It's the Flintstones, it's gotta be cheesy a little bit. You know, that's part of its charm. Sure, the bad guy's plot could have had a couple more twists and turns to it, but I'm happy with the plot we got. There's no need to get too complex here, right? Like, why? I enjoyed this movie as a kid and I enjoyed the hell out of it just the other day. So I'd recommend it for pretty much all ages, even if some will pretend this isn't charming as hell. But I guess just like Popeye became Mario, literally, and the Honeymooners became the Flintstones, so too must the Flintstones continue to evolve with the times. And hey, maybe we don't have the Flintstones anymore, but as long as there's that Flintstones vibe out there floating in the world, I can live with that. Thanks for watching this video, my friends, and a huge thank you for the amazing response to my Popeye video. I've been enjoying reading through all your comments, and yeah, you guys rock. See what I did there? Rock? That's a play on words. Or a pun. Either way, it's something. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy a la bouffe, okay? Leave a like, and feel free to check out all my other videos. Look, I'm not gonna be doing this every review, but alright, just this once. Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. They're the modern Stone Age family. From the town of Bedrock, they're a page right out of history. Let's ride with the family down the street, through the courtesy of Fred's 2 feet. When you're with the Flintstones, have a yabba dabba doo time, a dabba doo time. We'll have a gay old time.